Chapter 2 of The Plodder's Mile. Chapter 2. Tommy sat in the railroad car, turning the bundle over and over again in his hands. Smaller than a shoebox, it contained something very solid, and the brick seemed to weigh almost 10 pounds. A strong and very tall man, Tommy had no problem hefting the weight in his hands, tossing it up and down, then from side to side, then rolling it over from top to bottom, and then back again. Ray didn't have the patience that seemed to come naturally with Tommy's mental challenges. Although easily amused, it was also easy for Tommy to irritate Ray. "Give me that, you idiot," Ray whispered to Tommy a bit too loudly, since the other three passengers in the car looked up to see if Ray was going to reprimand his big friend again. Ray smiled and asked a little too politely, "Could you give me that for a minute, Tommy?" "I like playing with it, Raymond." Tommy held the package close as if protecting a pet. "It's like a real heavy football, and I feel like I'm one of those catching guys on the football team." The little girl, the girl's mother, and the businessman turned to look at Ray. Over the last hour, they had seen several tantrums, cajolings, negotiations, and standoffs over the package. Ray realized he would need to get rid of this unwanted attention. "Tommy, you do look like one of those football guys, but not the receiver," Ray intoned in a childlike voice. "You look like the quarterback, the guy who throws the ball." Immediately, Tommy lifted the package for a forward pass, which brought Ray to his feet. "But sometimes, Tommy," he said, getting closer to the towering Tommy, "sometimes the quarterbacks pretend to throw and just hand off the ball." Although shorter than Tommy by at least a foot, Ray sidled up to the quarterback and took the handoff and excused himself into the next car. Tommy followed like a puppy. As soon as the door was shut, Ray pulled Tommy closer, which also meant lower. "Listen, you big stoop," said the little man. "You drop this package and it breaks, there won't be no money for us to spend later. Those people in there, you think they're just going to sit there while money flies around the train?" The idea seemed to have an appeal to Tommy, who reached again for the package. "No, Tommy, we are not going to throw the money around the train. I want you and me to spend the money, not them, so I'm going to keep a hold of it for a while, okay?" Tommy slumped into another seat with his lower lip protruding in a pout. He rehearsed the rules he had learned on this train ride. Don't talk about the money. Don't say the word money. Don't talk about what you're going to spend the money on. Don't play with the money. Why did there have to be so many rules? Ray sat down next to Tommy to whisper more instructions. "Stop saying the word money." "But you just said money." "That's because you said it 4 times in a row. But then you said it too, so I can say it now too. Money, 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 money." Ray knew there was no hope in winning an argument with Tommy, so the next best thing was to distract him. Out came the yo-yo, which Tommy had yet to master, but he could spend hours flinging the yo-yo down, then winding it back up again. "Yo-yo!" erupted the squeal, which frightened the other 2 people in this car to move farther to the end. Tommy was an imposing sight, and when fully frenzied, he would strike fear into grown men, even cops, especially cops. A confrontation with the cops was where Ray got the idea to recruit Tommy as a partner. After 3 cops had retreated from an especially big Tommy tantrum, calling instead for backup and some psychiatric help, Ray had sat back and made some plans. Fortunately, Tommy had committed no great crime, only wanting to ring the bell at the carnival hammer game 50 or 60 times, so when the proper authorities had worked to sort out the confusion, Ray stepped up to gain a partner. "Sorry for the fracas, officers," he had said. "My friend here isn't working with a full deck, and sometimes he scares other people. I'll take care that he don't cause no more trouble." Tommy had then looked at Ray, smiled, and everyone was happy to part company. After a few hamburgers, Ray found out Tommy was alone at the carnival, but lived up the street in a group home. Taking Tommy by the hand to a new life, Tommy was content to leave his past behind and seek the adventures Ray had planned for him. Ray knew the perfect partner when he saw it. Though twice the size of Ray, Tommy was unable to distinguish right from wrong, instead relying on Ray to clarify the situation. Ray had been in prison several times for burglary and other minor crimes. The short, stocky, red-haired man was getting older now and had yet to make his big heist. Now he greedily hugged the bundle of money, hardly able to contain his enthusiasm for the successful crime. It was almost all he could do, not to stand on the seats and proclaim their collective brilliance, which, of course, meant Ray's brilliance. Tommy was almost more trouble than he was worth, botching the first 2 holdups by pointing out Ray and confessing the entire plan to the tellers. Out came all the details, and after another rescue or 2, Tommy had finally got it right. 100 $1,000 right. Now, if Ray could only get him to shut up long enough to get away, they'd have plenty of time to figure out what was next. Ray confessed as much to himself. He hadn't really thought it would be this easy, but with the gentle giant next to him, he started to contemplate the next big heist. But then the train began to slow and then stopped. The train was still miles from its destination, and Ray knew they weren't supposed to stop for at least another hour. The few times Ray had checked out this escape route, the train had never stopped this early. Tommy looked up and kept winding up the yo-yo. He looked out the window and pointed. "Look at the pretty lights," he said, motioning to the two police cars directly outside the window of the train. Ray instinctively pulled Tommy to the near side of the car, popping open a window to hear the conversation outside. Ray and Tommy huddled next to the window. 4 detectives were gathered around one of the cars. "Short guy and a big guy," said the boss. "A really big guy." He motioned with his hands, gesturing far above his own head. Almost before the gesturing stopped, Ray was dragging Tommy to the front of the train. There was no way they could leave the train and not be seen in the open fields which surrounded the tracks. Ray was thinking as fast as he could, still dragging Tommy along with him, wondering what to do next. As he opened one door at the front of a car and crossed the landing to enter the next car, Ray paused to look down. He could see the tracks under the train. The entire train was about to be searched, but maybe they wouldn't think to search under the train. Ray tossed the bundle up under the next car, hearing it hop 2 or 3 feet before landing next to a wheel. Perfect. John noticed the commotion on the tracks after he'd started jogging back toward home. Even though he knew it was better to keep running so there wouldn't be as much muscle soreness the next day, the sight of 4 policemen escorting a huge man from the train was too intriguing to miss. He stopped next to the end of the train and watched. "Yeah, we took the money and it was big football, but it was heavy, and Raymond said we could spend it on anything we wanted." The big man practically gushed at the prospects, not wanting to wait to share his excitement. "I told the nice lady at the bank we was going for a train ride, and she said she wanted to ride too, and on the same train. So I wonder if she is here." 2 of the detectives held onto Tommy's head to make sure he didn't hit it on the door as they put him in the patrol car. The car's springs bent under the load as his head barely cleared the doorway. While the car sat full of Tommy, John finally decided to ask what was going on. His friend from the local police force told him it was a search for some stolen cash and that he should stand off to the side of the tracks. It wasn't more than 5 minutes before the train pulled out. The prospect of sore muscles faded as John decided to stay and watch the show. Just like everyone else who slows and gawks, John wanted to be in on the discussion. So little happened in Ridgeway that a good police story would be discussed for a week. After the train left, John approached the same detective, his friend Greg Jones. "Any luck?" The dark-suited man shook his head but pointed to the car. "Looks like we got the brains of the operation at least," he smirked, ducking into one of the cars and pulling away. Ray smiled to himself as the train pulled out. He told Tommy he had to go to the bathroom, but that he didn't want anyone to know about it, so Tommy was supposed to wait for Ray in the second car while Ray went to the bathroom in the third car. Ray had actually gone down several cars and sat in the toilet for a while. When the police found Tommy, Ray was several cars away and the two were never matched up. Ray had sat next to the small fatherless family looking at the car, amazed at the sight, and when the detective walked by them, he didn't even give Ray a second glance. Even though he had to ditch Tommy, the money would be here on the tracks when he came back. If he came right back. Then Ray would worry about what to do about Tommy. Or maybe he wouldn't worry. Now to look for some landmarks so he could find his way back. The sign at the edge of town said, Ridgeway. John shook his head and watched the police cars pull away. He stretched briefly on the rails, trying to get the stiffness out of his calf muscles. Sitting for too long next to the train had made him feel the cold, and he could also feel his muscles beginning to stiffen up, which would give him something else to worry about when he finally got home. The railroad tracks were now his again, and they pulled him homeward. The steady rhythm began again. He put one foot before the other, starting again another plodding mile, which was not really running and not really walking, especially when he ran up hills in races. He often thought to himself that he was the only person who knew he was running, plodding like the Budweiser horses. But like Confucius said, it matters not how slow you go, only that you do not stop. Step after step, he built momentum. Then, he started to build a small bit of speed, as much as uneven railroad ties would permit. He ran past a package and looked down at it as he passed. For one moment, he thought about ignoring it since it would involve another stopping and more stiffening of his muscles, but finally, curiosity got the better of him. He slowed, turned around, and walked back to pick up the package, which was much too heavy to be a football. The brown paper wrapping seemed ordinary enough. Secured with some twine, it was big enough to get the best of John's curiosity. It hadn't been here earlier in his run. Picking it up, John wondered at the mass. It was heavy, much heavier than it looked, and the substantial weight both surprised and intrigued him. Why would a large, heavy package be dropped on the tracks? Untying it was too slow, and now John was really curious. Carefully, he grabbed the brown paper and pulled it a corner, hoping to expose enough of the package to get an idea of what it was. Dense stacks of greenish-white paper were under the brown. A fragrance wafted up from the package, and the sight and smell of the bills punched John like a right-left combination. This package was money. He tore at the corner a bit more and then saw the paper wrapper encircling the top stack. They were $100 bills. This has to be thousands of dollars, John thought to himself. He looked around the fields that surrounded him. There was no one to be seen, and even the dark horse was preoccupied with the hay. John tucked the package under his arm and, like the halfback on the winning team, jogged triumphantly back home. 1,000 thoughts crowded his mind, but the image of the high school touchdown was the dominant thought that kept crowding out the others. He should have left the evidence in place. Cue the Rocky theme. He should have contacted the police immediately, tucked the cash under his arm and protect it, crossed the goal line, ready to solve all the problems he'd been contemplating earlier. Touchdown! At home, John flipped through a small stack of $100 bills. There was the crisp smell of newly minted money, and after checking, he decided that all of the numbers were consecutive. This bundle had to be the package the detectives wanted. But it was $100,000. Enough to do whatever they wanted, with lots left over to pay bills, buy cars, to go on vacations. Whatever Reba wanted, he would be able to give her. It was a powerful feeling which was followed by some thoughts about the reality of the money. Stolen cash, the detective had said. Consecutive numbers meant it was probably stolen from a bank. The big guy they had arrested was talking about the lady at the bank, so he was the one who took the cash. But like the detective had said, probably not the brains of the operation. Would there be a reward for its return from a bank? John shook his head silently to himself. It would be wrong to keep the money, and banks wouldn't offer much but congratulations for being a good citizen. There had to be a way to keep some of this money, if only for a finder's fee. That would let his conscience rest and still benefit his family somehow. But how?